The process from securing an investment property under contract through until you settle on that property is arguably the most stressful part of the entire journey. There is a lot of different partners and advisors that you need to be communicating with throughout that journey, and it is where your emotions are going to be the highest. So today I've got my colleague Hayden in here who's going to educate you on exactly what happens from the day you get that signed contract through until when you actually settle on that property and receive the keys off the selling agent. Yeah, Haydo, thank you so much for coming on to today's video and educating people a little bit about this stressful process. Obviously, at this phase, you need to be extraordinarily detail-oriented to make sure that nothing slips through the cracks. And you kind of need to be a little bit of a project manager as well to make sure that everybody is doing exactly what they're doing. But to give everybody a little bit of context, Haydo's been working at Pumped On Property now for a couple of years. He's personally bought 4 investment properties himself. 4 properties?
Yeah, 4. Yep. 4
properties himself, and helped our clients settle over $150 million worth of investment property over the last couple of years. So it's safe to say you have more experience than almost anybody in Australia from the under contract to settlement phase. So I'm handing it over to you, mate. Let's say that I was one of our clients that you would support through this phase. We've just got the signed contract back from the real estate agent. What would you do for that client, or what would you do as an investor at that phase?
Yeah, great question. Whole heap of advisors we have to work with at this stage. So first things, take a deep breath, chill out. It's going to be a lot of paperwork, a lot of stress, but it's only for a short period of time. So the idea is just to keep getting the ball out of your court and leaning on those team advisors if you're unsure at that stage. So if you're working with someone like us or another buyer's agent, we will have sort of those referral partners, and we can introduce you to all these people we need to work with. If you are going at it on your own, which is fine, it would be best to try to organise that team advisors and have them ready to go prior to purchasing a property. That could be as simple as just Googling some names, reaching out to 2 or 3 different people and just seeing who's the right fit and asking them like what they charge, what they might do for you, and just having them on standby, ready to go.
I think that's so important to be really proactive as a property investor as well, because that's going to alleviate a lot of stress, a lot of pressure as well, because those first few weeks are really intense. There's a lot going on. If you're trying to find the right partner at that phase, you might not get the best partner. You might get somebody that doesn't have your best interest at the top of your mind. So I love that. You've got to be proactive. You've got to have those team of advisors. When you are partnering up with a buyer's agent, you're going to be able to gain access to, a really high quality team of advisors, hopefully. But if you don't have that, or if you're doing it alone, it is important to build that team of advisors before you get it under contract, so they know exactly what's coming as well, and they're going to be ready to jump into action, because most people have clauses in the contract which gives them a certain time frame to get the information together, right?
Yeah, it's already stressful enough with a bit of time pressure, so you don't want to be adding in the fact that you're trying to build this team and reach out to all these random people at that stage. So definitely best to have them all ready to go for when we get this signed contract. So yeah, we've got it. First things first, there's around 6 steps that for every property across the board you'll have to do, and then there could be a few extra things depending on the particular property someone buys.
Now, what I want to say just quickly is, we are buyers agents based in Southeast Queensland. We are licensed members of the Real Estate Institute of Queensland. So this is more Queensland specific, so apologies for people down in New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia, Western Australia that are dealing with different contracts, but it is quite transferable across Australia in terms of the partners that you need, but we're more specifically talking to Brisbane right now and Queensland contracts.
Yeah, exactly right. We're up here. We have normally a few conditions in place, plus maybe a 30 to 60-day settlement somewhere around there. So first things first, step 1 would be paying your initial deposit. This can be anywhere from 5,000 up to 10 grand, up to 5%. That'll be specified on the contract, and that gets paid into the real estate agent's trust account. Nothing you really need to worry about. That's just where the agent takes their commission from, and that deposit you pay at the start will come off that final deposit you pay at the end. So pay that. It's usually payable within a day or 2 of getting the contract. So that's usually the first thing to get onto. Number two, step two would be, so you're already working with your mortgage broker. If you've done the right thing, hopefully you've got some sort of pre-approval in place or some sort of confirmation there.
Don't go buying properties without a pre-approval, guys. It is stressful. It is super hard work. Get the pre-approval when you're buying properties up here in Queensland. Full show.
For sure. So if you've done that, get the contract through to your mortgage broker as soon as you've got it and say, hey mate, bought the property, here's the contract, please get started on finance. So banks can be a little slow at the moment. The lending environment's constantly changing. So that's one of the key things to get onto as soon as possible, to give your broker and bank enough time to give yourself a good shot at getting finance accepted as soon as possible. So the third step of the process that we want to get onto is organising insurance. So up here in Queensland, you have to have insurance in place from 5 p.m. the following business day after we receive the contract. So pretty quick. It's a bit silly, like you think it should be towards settlement, but it is what it is. It's what we're working with.
Probably the insurance brokers want to get their money a little bit quicker.
Yeah, and I think they like to, because most of the time the sellers have it insured up to settlement, and they just like to have that overlap in case there's like current insurance claims or something. It allows that crossover time. And
it's kind of like with insurance, like it's similar to mortgage. You can go directly to a bank to get a mortgage, or you can go through a mortgage broker. Insurance is similar. You can go directly to an insurance provider, or you can work with an insurance broker, and that's just personal preference, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Like you might have a few properties already, or cars, or an existing provider that you're happy with, and you can just give them a buzz directly and be like, I've just bought a place. I want to organise building, content, landlords, whatever you want to do, and organise it with them directly. Otherwise, similar to a mortgage broker, there are insurance brokers out there that have access to a whole heap of companies. And what you do is basically reach out to them and go, bought a property, this is the address, and they'll come back to you with a list of questions on what you need to answer. You just flick back the answers to those questions. If you're unsure, just ask the broker and they'll help you out. And then from there, they'll come back to you with some quotes, and then you just basically lock it in and you're good to go.
Awesome.
Step 4, next one would be engaging your solicitor. So as you said before, hopefully you've already found a solicitor. What you'll do is same thing as your mortgage broker, literally just send them the contract and say, hey, just bought a property, here's the contract. Please help me get started on what I need to do from here. And your solicitor will come back with like an engagement letter, and we'll start the process with you from there.
Yeah, any good solicitor will have like a bit of an information sheet that they'll send through to you as well, with like important dates, what you need to be prepared for, and all of that stuff as well. And, the guys that we partnered up with, their information sheet is really nice and clear as well. So, I like to print that off and then stick it on my fridge or stick it on my desk at the office, like whatever you look at the most in a day, put it there so you know exactly what's coming up, because there's a lot of different things that need to be taken care of, obviously. Yep,
good point. Next one from here, step 5, I think we're up to, would be organising your building and pest inspection.
Yep.
That's as simple as basically same thing, letting them know you bought a property. You pass on the real estate agent's details to the company you're using.
Yep.
And the building pest company will ring the agent directly, lock in a time for that inspection, and basically send you an email saying, booked in for this time, please make payment into this account. So super simple to organise. That one?
I always like to go to that building and pest inspection if you're local to the market, or if you if you have the capacity to get there. It can be good because, they are going to look at the property and they're going to, really scrutinise the property as well. And those building and pest reports can be quite scary, but they're just trying to make you aware of absolutely everything that could be wrong with the property. So if you're there, you get more context to it. If you can't be there, just organise a meeting with them, right?
Yeah.
But we'll go into that into more detail on another video anyway.
Yep.
So just to sort of recap where we're at right now, we've taken 5 steps. Most of this is going to happen within the first 24 to 48 hours of getting a property under contract, so getting the signed contract. So we pay our initial deposit. We get in touch with the mortgage broker and send him the contract or her the contract. We get in touch with an insurance broker or an insurance provider. We talk with our solicitor and send them through the contract. And we also engage a building and pest inspector and ensure that they're going to be able to get out to the site within that building and pest clause that most people are going to put in their contracts.
Yep, exactly right. That's the 5 key things that sort of need to get going as soon as possible. The 6th thing that you'll have to do that maybe isn't as time sensitive, but still want to get onto them sooner rather than later, is your property manager. Just let them know you've bought a property. They might be able to help you out with a rental appraisal, more just getting them familiar that you will be working with them, because you will work with them more towards settlement as you start to find a tenant, or if that sort of there's an existing lease in place, so they're ready to take over that lease. They'll often do the pre-settlement inspection. So reaching out to your property manager, ideally sometime in the first week is best practice as well.
Okay, awesome. So that obviously is a lot to deal with. We've got like six different partners that we're working with. So a lot of different things going out there. Obviously, a lot of different clauses to meet, a lot of different people to deal with. So it can be a little bit stressful throughout that point in time. What would you say is generally, the most overwhelming part of this under contract phase? And, what type of advice do you give your clients to help them overcome those more emotional parts of the process?
Yeah, sure. Good question. So building and pest, getting that back is pretty overwhelming for most people, just because you go from like looking at the flashy real estate photos, maybe you've done a walkthrough or inspected it yourself, it looks nice, and then you go to getting like 100 photos from an iPhone zoomed up on every little tiny thing.
Yeah, that's true.
It sort of makes the property look a lot worse than it is, and that's probably a downstage where you have your ups and downs through the process, and getting that can be a little overwhelming. But we'll touch on that, like you said, in another video. We'll talk about that in more detail. Sometimes the banks can be a little bit stressful, just because they just always take longer than what you think.
Yeah.
So as long as you can do there, it's just all you can do is just basically get the ball out of your court, make sure you've given your broker everything they need, and just trust them to do their thing. There's no more you can do in that case. It's just take the pressure off. It'll be what it'll be. If for whatever reason they don't have it done before finance conditions due, like you can work on extensions, which may or may not be given, but there are options. The solicitor stuff is probably the last one that's a little bit stressful. Everything else is pretty cruisy. Solicitors are just bit overwhelming. Like, they've got their own language. It can be like, what the hell does this mean?
Yeah. And they always send through an information sheet with what you need to be, like the searches and things like that. Now, we're not solicitors. We can't provide any personal advice for your personal situation or the property that you're buying. But a question that we get asked all the time is, what are all these searches? How much do I have to spend? And what ones should I actually get? So I think having a good relationship with your solicitor, and, I always just go, what would you personally do if you were buying this property? And they're going to be able to give you that information. Any other things that you can think of there?
Yeah, that's good advice. Like, all the standard searches are the ones that literally have to be done to safely get the property into your name. And then, as you said, you do get a whole heap of optional searches. So obviously speak to your solicitor, see what they would advise. Some people literally choose to do all of them. Some people choose to do none of them. I personally like to do a couple. It might be a flood search or easements, or there's some things that I like to check out, but it is case by case, property by property. Always best to just do the standard searches and then ask the solicitor, like, what do you think could be important here for me? And just take their advice.
Awesome. Now, this sounds like a lot. How much does this generally cost the average investor for all of these different partners and searches and partnerships and things like that? So is it super expensive, or is it how do we pay for all this stuff?
Yeah, good question. So the cost of what I've mentioned so far, so those 5 main partners plus the initial deposit, but the 5 partners, the property manager, you pay once they start, like you pay a percentage of the rent once it's rented, so nothing up front. The mortgage broker, they get paid by their bank, so that won't cost you anything. The building and pest inspection, they're typically around $500, give or take, somewhere around there. The solicitor, this is your biggest cost. So honestly, they range so much from anywhere from like around $1,000 all the way up to like $3,000, just depending on how many searches you do, like whether you get a conveyancer, solicitor, does vary a lot, but somewhere around a couple of grand on average. Then the final one, insurance, that won't cost you anything to set it up. The insurance broker, like your mortgage broker, gets paid from the insurance company that you go with. So the cost for that's just once you're actually insuring the property month to month.
Which is like a part of the deposit. It's just part of the holding costs associated with that property. Right. Okay, awesome.
And there are that's your key ones. On top of that, there's some extra searches depending on the property you buy that you might want to do. If you've got a property with a pool, you'd want to do a pool inspection. If you say might be looking to do some renovations or a granny flat or something like that, you can get builders out there to check out the property and give some quotes. You might want like a surveyor or there's a few different people. Town planner. For sure.
If you're going to be developing or something like that, or adding a granny flat, you know, you need to talk with a town planner as well there.
Yeah.
You know, you can, the list is endless, right? You know, it depends on your strategy.
Yeah.
But I think these big rocks really, you know, cover the bases for what's going to happen in those first 48 hours and then as those clauses come through. So I think, you know, the biggest lesson here is just being proactive, you know, being on top of it and aware as to what is going to happen. Also having a really high quality team of advisors there so that you can leverage off their experience and knowledge throughout that journey to make it a little bit less stressful. And, you know, try and enjoy the process. Like nothing in life comes for free, right? So I generally try and say to all of our clients, if you can give it like 2 hours per week of your focused attention, you'll be able to get the result that you need. You know, that's focused attention. That's not, you know, 2 hours of this and that. It's like 2 hours of focused attention, reading the emails, reading the information sheets, reading the contracts, you know, doing everything that you possibly can to be aware and proactive about everything. And 2 hours of your time per week to buy a property that you're only going to buy 2, 3, 4 times throughout your whole entire life. It's not the end of the world, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Like just keep it fully simple. I'm always a big fan of spending the time building the right team of advisors, and you've found them for a reason. So it's like, yes, once you got a contract, everything sort of comes in at once and it can be overwhelming, but the team of advisors know what they're doing if you found the right advisors. So it's just getting the ball out of your court. If you're unsure, ask them. Like, there's no dumb questions. It's like, I don't know what this means, tell me, and then they'll tell you. And it's just back and forth, hitting it out of your court, and before you know it, you'll be settled.
Yeah, how good's that, man? No, thank you so much for sharing all of that information. I think it's important to recognize it is the most stressful part of buying an investment property. So be aware that that is going to get your heart rate up a few times there. But we just want you guys to make the best decisions and have a fun journey to financial freedom and a fun process when purchasing an investment property. It does not need to be this highly stressful, highly anxious process. It can be really fun if you're proactive. Now, you know, we do run a buyer's agency where we help a small number of clients enter into the property market every single month. What we do with those clients is we help them build the right strategy. We help them get educated on the market. We help them find the right property. We help them negotiate the best deal on that property. And then Hayden helps every single one of our clients settle on those properties to make sure that nothing is slipping through the cracks and to make sure that we do get the best possible result. We'll also provide you with the introductions to all of those team of advisors so you can fast track that there as well. So if this is something that you are interested in and you would like to capitalize on the buyer's market at the moment, then we'd love to offer you a free one-on-one strategy session where we can spend some time together talking about where you're at right now, where you're looking to be in the future, and your immediate next steps. Now, to book that in, head over to our website, www.pumpedonproperty.com, and follow the free strategy session links to lock in a session with myself, Simon, or my brother Ben, or my sister Crystal. But thanks once again, Haydo, for jumping on and providing everyone with this information.
Beautiful.
Woo! That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Have a spin.
Bro.
Yeah. Oh, sweaty. So sweaty. Oh, that's good. Look at that.
So nice, eh?
Oh.